The latest rumors on Nolan Arenado, including why a deal hasn't been struck already, according to one source. On today's episode of Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafford, and I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter X at JD Sports Radio. You can also follow the podcast at LO_Cardinals. I do want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube if you haven't already. Stop on by, like, subscribe, comment, hit that notification button so you know when the new episodes are posted. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving you the best fans in baseball. All of the info about the birds on the bat. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. So TikTok, not talking about the app. No. That is the clock winding down as spring training approaches across Major League Baseball. Pitchers and catchers reporting this week across the league. We got position players to follow after that. And as of this moment, the Nolan Arenado trade saga continues. It has not moved. There's been no movement yet. He's still a member of the Cardinals. But we do have some word from ESPN's Jeff Passan on the situation. And from what I'm gathering, he's under the impression that it is a money issue on the Cardinals side that has kept Nolan Arenado in St. Louis so far. So here's what he says in his latest article. And he starts off talking about Alex Bregman, which my everydayers should be well aware of by now, is one of the main reasons that things have not moved as swiftly as we'd like with the Arenado trade stuff, because teams are waiting on Bregman to make a decision. And if he doesn't choose them, then they can pivot to other options at third base like Nolan Arenado. Now, the teams he lists are the same usual suspects: Tigers, Astros, Red Sox, Blue Jays, and Cubs. I did see there was an update. Let me double check this while I got you guys with me right now, that he is close, likely to choose soon, multi-year offers from 3 teams. This, according to Buster Olney, he's going to sign with either the Cubs, Red Sox, or Tigers, according to that report, which just dropped a few moments ago at MLB.com. So that's a little bit of an upgrade, or an update, I should say, on what's going on with the Bregman situation. In Passan's article, he points out that Red Sox manager Alex Cora wants Bregman badly. And this is important for us as Cardinal fans, because the Red Sox have been the most talked about and seemingly best spot for Nolan Arenado to land. So after the Bregman stuff in this article, he moves on to Arenado, saying that the fallout from Bregman's staring contest extends well beyond him, that 3 years after joining St. Louis, Arenado wants to be traded, and the Cardinals would like to oblige just for the right price. With the Yankees and the Dodgers seen as long shots to make a move for Arenado, an 8-time All-Star third baseman, the Red Sox remain the landing spot that makes the most sense, though Arenado used his no-trade clause to block a deal to Houston this winter. He would waive it to end up in Boston, according to sources. He says the Red Sox have yet to bite, not only because of the consequences of such a move, Rafael Devers, who we've talked about, having to shift to a near full-time designated hitter role, but because the Cardinals have not budged enough on the money that they're willing to send with the remaining 3 years and $64 million on Arenado's contract. Now, moving Arenado could force St. Louis to eat upward of half the money he is owed. Short of that, Boston's interest is iffy. So let's talk about that portion of Passan's article real quick. None of this is all that shocking. The league knows that the Cardinals are trying to move him. The league knows that he would prefer to get out. So the Cardinals have been painted in a bit of a corner here, where they really don't have much power in the situation to demand things from other teams. Teams aren't banging down the Cardinals' door to acquire Nolan Arenado right now. And as I've said a million times, it seems, when that Houston trade got vetoed by Nolan, it screwed the Cardinals royally. Screwed them big time. And this is not a knock on Nolan Arenado for doing what he did. It was his right to do it. He shouldn't feel bad about it, and none of us as fans should be mad at him either, because he has every right to choose. I don't want to play in Houston. That's not where I wanted to be. He wanted to wait it out to see if other places that he would prefer to play were going to open up, and maybe he could land there instead. He took a chance that could happen, but it's really, really, really made things difficult for the Cardinals because they found a deal. They had it. They found a deal that they liked and that they were like, cool, money's right. Whatever was coming back in return was apparently something that the Cardinals were cool with. I'm assuming the Astros felt they could live with whatever it was that they were trading away. They were fine with it. They were fine paying what they were going to pay for Nolan Arenado. And every deal after this particular one was likely not going to be as good. Like, you had to know that as the Cardinals. If that was the tippity top, like, it was good enough where they were like, yeah, let's go. And you just kind of knew that after that one, things were going to get worse. You know, any deals that were going to come to them after that was probably going to get worse. And as you can see, things have stalled. Now, how come the Cardinals don't just eat more money, right? Why don't they just do it and move on just to get over all of this and just move on with our lives? I'm guessing, and I have no source that's telling me this or anything, I'm just guessing that the Cardinals feel that if and when Bregman finally signs, that their leverage with Arenado will become better. It will get stronger. And that teams who don't get Alex Bregman will get a little more desperate and be willing to bid a little bit more and against each other to get Arenado instead. I'm sure that's what John Mozeliak and the Cardinals are hoping for, at least. And in theory, it makes sense, you know, supply, demand. There aren't a lot of third basemen out there. There's definitely not many with the name that Arenado carries with him. Yeah, he's got the price tag. Yeah, the power has been diminished. But, I mean, he's still elite level third baseman over there defensively, right? He's still a pretty darn good hitter. No, he's not hitting 35 bombs a year anymore, but he's still a pretty good hitter at third base. That's some scrub. He's not hitting 210 with, 10 home runs and, 50 RBI. Like, he's not a scrub. It feels like people are trying to make it sound like he's much worse than he really is, and he's not. But will other GMs feel pressure if they don't get Alex Bregman to satisfy their third base needs, to satisfy their fan bases who are expecting an improvement at that position? So I think that's what the front office is probably banking on, I think. Again, these are just my thoughts. But it's one of the reasons why it seems like they're holding out a little bit and just kind of playing. They're willing to be patient, even though we got spring training getting ready to start. And I think it's going to be really awkward if Nolan Arenado is at camp with the Cardinals, if he's still somebody that's on the trade block at the time. And Arenado could tell him, like, if I get into camp, that's it. I'm not going anywhere. Like, I have the right to stop it. So maybe I won't do that. But it's just another part of this very strange offseason for the Cardinals so far. And Passan actually delves into why executives around the industry have been, what he put, confounded by what the team has done or hasn't done this offseason. So I want to jump into that specifically next on Locked On Cardinals. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Now, with FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, which is great. So even if you miss the opening tip-off, you get stuck in traffic, whatever, or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay right there in the action. It's not going to pass you by. You're going to be okay. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. This is something that I did with my buddy last night. I was very excited to see what Luka Doncic would look like in a Lakers uniform playing alongside LeBron James. I have a buddy of mine who's a huge Lakers fan, and it was a late game because it was on the West Coast. And we stayed up. I was excited about it. And I was like, dude, what are we getting into? What do you want to do? And we decided to go with both a parlay where both LeBron and Luka would get triple doubles last night. That was the bet we made. We did not win. Neither one of them got it because they ended up blowing out Utah, and they didn't have to play Luka at all in the fourth quarter. But it made staying up to watch the Lakers play the Utah Jazz on a Monday night that much more exciting, that much more fun. And that's the idea. Make these games more interesting to you, and hopefully you profit from it. So right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you again for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. Leave your comments on YouTube as well as on Twitter X anytime you want. Your feedback is always welcome and encouraged. And, of course, we talk about your feedback on this show almost every day. Almost every day. Some days get a little more full than others, and it's hard to get to all of the comments and questions and stuff. But let it be known, you have not been forgotten. We will get to them. Probably tomorrow's episode is going to be a fan-heavy one, unless we get some breaking news of some sort. And then, of course, we got to move things around. But anyway, back to what we were talking about. This whole reset thing, right? This whole reset thing that was brought up by John Mozeliak and the Cardinals. I know personally, as a fan of the Cardinals, I was bummed. I was absolutely bummed because I wanted them to use the talent that they already had. A team that won 83 games last year, despite a lot of down years from certain people. And I wanted them to build on that. I like the idea that, hey, we're at least giving ourselves a chance to win. And when you heard about the reset thing, it was basically saying, hey, look, we're going to go in this direction, which means there's really not a lot of hope that we're going to win much this year. But my thought process was like, you've got Sonny Gray locked up. You got Eric Fetty, who you're hoping will be like he was with the White Sox and in a couple of starts with the Cardinals. Hopefully Wilson Contreras can come back for a full season. So it was hurt half the year last year, and he was a really good hitter. Mason Wynn obviously made huge strides last year and looks to be a budding superstar in the league. You still had Nolan Arenado, Brennan Donovan, Nootbaar, Romero, Helsley, a lot of guys, right? Pretty solid core there. Plus, you were hoping that young guys would step up and progress. You hit a wall with guys like Gorman and Walker last year, and it was weird, but you're hoping that, they would make strides the way Mason Wynn did. Ivan Herrera, Victor Scott, Fernandez and Liberatore in the bullpen, Pallante, McGreevy in your rotation. And if you added just a couple of good names to that group instead of, the middle of the road guys, perhaps you could make a decent run in a week in El Central. Instead, they say they're going to do this reset. And in my mind, that meant not only letting go of the free agents like Gibson, Lynn, Kittredge, Goldschmidt, which I was not upset about. But also, if you're going to go that way, you got to go all the way. And you got to trade away guys like Contreras and Arenado and Helsley and Gray and Fetty and Michaelis, Matz, guys that would have some worth to other teams around the league. It would help you cut payroll. It opens up spots for everybody else. I understood the direction. I got it. I was like, that's a tough pill to swallow because I'm not used to this as a Cardinals fan, and neither are you. But if we're going to do it, let's go. Let's do it. Let's get this thing headed in the right direction again, where we're competing for championships again. And instead, none of them have been moved. They're all still here. It is genuinely the worst reset I have ever seen. Reset, rebuild, whatever R word you want to do. It's not good. It's been bad. And it's something that Passan brings up that has people around the league also scratching their heads. Here's what he had to say in this article at ESPN.com. Why St. Louis hasn't been more aggressive in dealing its bevy of talent is confounding executives around the industry. If the Cardinals aren't going to spend, and they haven't spent $1 in free agency, surely the thinking goes they should leverage the players they've got now and start building towards something more. Makes sense, right? Instead, they are seemingly content to run it back, even if that means the awkwardness of Arenado returning. The Cardinals had prepared for that possibility and are content following a mediocre season in which they lost nearly 400,000 fans with another uninspiring winter. It's an organization stuck in neutral, a feeling that led to John Mozeliak announcing that he will step away after the 2025 season and yielding the team's president of baseball operations job to former Red Sox chief baseball officer Chaim Bloom. The Cardinals' direction will become clearer when owner Bill DeWitt Jr. decides whether to kick in more money to facilitate an Arenado deal. Just how willing he is to do so will become clearer in the coming days and weeks. So, if you're confused by the Cardinals' moves or lack thereof this offseason, you are not alone. Everybody is confused by all of this. Apparently, the league is confused as to what in the hell is going on in St. Louis. I have said before, everydayers will remember this, when Contreras and Gray said that they'd prefer to stay in St. Louis instead of getting traded, when they said, hey, we're no trade clause, we're not going anywhere, I don't want to go anywhere, I want to be in St. Louis, that's why I signed here, which is super nice of them. I think it threw Mo and the boys for a loop. I don't think that they expected them to say that. I think they expected them to be on board with moving on elsewhere to compete for a championship, and that as soon as one domino went, the others would follow. Again, it wasn't going to be a fire sale, but it was going to be, all right, these are the expensive dudes. These are the veteran dudes. Let's move on from them. We'll trade them elsewhere. We'll get some assets in return, and we'll start, churning this thing out. And as much as I hated hearing that the Cardinals were looking to trade these guys, I at least gave them credit for picking a lane and moving in a direction and saying, nope, this is what we've decided, and we're going to go do it. Problem is, nobody wanted to leave. Contreras and Gray say they'd rather stick around. They chose St. Louis for a reason. Michaelis has got a no-trade clause. He's going to clog up another rotation spot this year with his declining stuff. Again, I've seen people are like, well, move him to the bullpen. Doesn't matter if he goes there or not. And right now, it's the rotation. Yeah, we got 6 guys now. But again, health, things will happen in the spring. Somebody's going to get hurt. It's just what normally happens for every team. And then that person's going to be back in the rotation anyway. So there's no need to make Michael needs to go to the pen right now. What else we got here? They won't eat enough money to move Arenado to unclog things on the infield, which, it's going to move the pecking order around of who's getting at bats and whatnot. Would likely, at least in my opinion, is going to keep Thomas Ajaysi down in the minor leagues. Again, having him sit on the bench all the time and playing once a week is not going to do him any good. You just let him play every day. You find other people that you don't need to worry about their progression as a prospect. You let them sit on the bench. That's why they got guys like Carpenter and Crawford last year. Is because they're okay with being on the bench. It's not a big deal. But when you got top prospects like Thomas Ajay, you don't want him rotting. You need him taking at bats and playing every day. So that'll move him down to the minors likely. It's going to cost Nolan Gorman at bats. It's going to cost Alec Burleson at bats because you got to have somebody who's going to DH. Burleson looks like he doesn't have a spot in the outfield as of right now because of Walker, Donovan, Nootbaar, Ciani. You'd want all those guys starting in the outfield over Burleson as far as a defensive player. So where are you going to put him? You're going to make him a DH? Okay, well, that's fine. But it just keeps things clogged up, right? Where a lot of these guys are going to have to sit on the bench for certain things, and that's what they're trying not to do. I'm assuming interest in Steven Matz has been minimal at best, which means McGreevy might have to be in the minors. I don't want to see him in the bullpen. If that's if they're not going to push Matz out there, then I don't want to see McGreevy sitting out there and just rotting and waiting. I want him pitching every 5th day. So Passan says it perfectly. They are stuck in neutral. They won't make the necessary impact moves to become a much better team through free agency. They don't want to spend the money to do that. And again, I'm not talking about subtle moves. I'm not talking about, like they did last year, which was so underwhelming when it was, we found out Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn are coming in. And you're like, what? Why? Those are so non-needle moving moves. I was like, you got Gray. Get one more guy. And really make an impact. And they're like, nah, Gibson and Lynn. And we all knew that wasn't going to be enough. And it wasn't, which is why so many of us were disappointed in that decision last year. This year, they're relying on the youth and the organization to provide that boost, which is fine. I'm all for that. It is time for Gorman and Walker to be one of your everyday 3 through 6 guys in the lineup. I'm cool with that. They got to find out if they can do it or not. Sink or swim. Nootbaar has to have a bigger impact on this team and stay healthy to do it. I'm excited about seeing Ivan Herrera's bat in the lineup for a full season. But to not deal away any of these veteran guys to open up things even more, it's just extremely disheartening to a fan base that is already annoyed and fed up with the lack of vision in one direction or another. And you saw that over the last couple seasons with the way attendance was. Like last year's attendance wasn't a shocker because you saw as things got worse and worse in the previous season in 2023, and now you had to try to win all these guys back. And, Sonny Gray was a good signing, but that was it. Like, it's not going to put butts in the seats, and then when you went Glenn and Gibson, everybody was like, oh, so you're just going to do that again? Okay. And they stayed away. A winning team in St. Louis, fans stayed away, chose to stay away. Now, I realize things can change during the upcoming season. Perhaps by the trade deadline, maybe Contreras and Gray have a change of heart and are willing to go somewhere else. Fetty, Housley, Matz, they could all be moved. Things could change. But what if it becomes we get there? It's July 30th. It's always at the end of the July when the trade deadline is. So say it's July 30th. Cardinals are 3 games back in the division or the wild card. They're not in first. They're not winning anything yet, but they're not completely out of it yet. Will Mo have the courage to still trade assets away? To think about the future, where some of these guys are in big demand and we could get a haul for some of these guys? Or will he try to go win in his final year by hanging on to everyone to the detriment of the future? You've seen what he's done in the past, and we'll see. It's going to be a tough spot. Again, it's weird too because he's not in charge next year. So whatever decisions he makes, has the repercussions on Chaim Bloom next year, who is with the team this year. And so he's probably going to be like, dude, no, don't do that. But he's not in charge. So I just wonder how this whole dynamic's going to work out. Again, the most middle of the road, neutral spot to be in, which is a horrible spot to be in when you're a franchise. Don't know whether to flush or just keep going. That's where they are. And I know they want to try to trade Arenado. They're still looking to. Sorry, my chair keeps sinking. I got a new chair, by the way, that I have to put together because this one, the hydraulics on either I just got fat or the hydraulics on this sucker are wearing out. So I got to put my new one together. So apologies for you watching on YouTube. But they're trying to trade Arenado. They are. But if they really want to just get it done, then eat the necessary money that you have to and get it going. Get it over with. Okay? We're going to discuss the updates on the arbitration hearings, something we haven't talked a lot about this offseason with 3 Cardinals who should have a big impact on this season. We'll do that next on Locked On Cardinals. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings you a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on all the teams during the offseason, even the silent ones like our Cardinals. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Brendan Donovan, Andre Pallante, and Lars Nootbaar are going to be important pieces for this team in 2025. If there's going to be success, those 3 guys are going to have to be huge for this team. If they fall apart and they lose a lot, probably because those guys didn't live up to whatever expectations we have for them coming into the season. Donnie has been a bright spot for this team. The only time that he had any issues is when he got hurt. a couple years ago during that horrible 2023 season. Remember, he had the injury and then in his elbow. So they were like, all right, let's just bring you back next year. The season's over. That's the only time that he has had failure at the major league level. So huge bright spot for this team and organization since he came up. Solid player, great defender, one of those glue pieces that all rosters need to be successful. He's not a superstar by any means, but he's very important. Pallante made the move to full-time starter last year and flourished in the second half. Team is hoping that that's not just some flash-in-the-pan situation, that he can legit be a part of their 5-man rotation this year and beyond. And then with Lars, all the potential in the world, right? All the potential. Has the potential to be a very good player in this league. Stat-cast wonder boy, right? But health has held him back from fulfilling all that potential to its fullest. That's been the problem, keeping him on the field. So Donovan, Pallante, and Nootbaar are the only arbitration-eligible players with whom the Cardinals could not reach deals with before the January 9th deadline to exchange their salary figures. Now, Daniel Guerrero did a write-up at stltoday.com, said Donovan and Pallante are scheduled for today and Wednesday. I think I saw a tweet or an X, whatever the hell you call them now, that Donovan's is done for the day. So that's completed. Pallante, I guess, would be tomorrow. And then a decision on Lars Nootbaar's arbitration hearing is expected in the coming days. He had his arbitration hearing last week in St. Petersburg, per a source. The 27-year-old outfielder declined to comment on the arbitration process until after a decision is announced. Filed for a salary of $2.95 million. Cardinals filed at $2.45. Donovan's 28 years old. Filed for a salary of $3.3 million. Cardinals filed at $2.85. And then Pallante, 26, filed at $2.1. Cardinals filed at $1.95. And I know the reaction when we hear these numbers, you're like, well, that's not a huge discrepancy. Just pay the guys. Quit being cheap. But this is the process. This is what they do. And in every business, whoever's owner is going to try to pay you less. Like, it's just the way it is. That's how they make more money. And sometimes in this arbitration stuff, feelings get hurt and it blows up in your face. Hello, Tyler O'Neill. Happened to him with the Cardinals, and they never really recovered after that. But Helsley did it and came out fine last year. Newt has said before he understands the process. He gets it. He's not bothered by things. Personally, it's a terrible process. The fact that somebody who relies on somebody else to do good things for them, but has to speak in front of that person and tell them what he does wrong and how terrible they are at certain things so that they can save some money. I think it's terrible. It's awful. But it's what they have right now. It needs to be changed. But hopefully whatever happens with these three guys, everybody's fine and moves on. If they end up all winning their arbitration cases and the Cardinals have to pay it, so be it. Big deal. But if they lose, I hope it doesn't hurt their feelings and they're upset about it. Part of the process. But it made me come up with a question before we wrap things up today. If you could extend one of these guys, Brendan Donovan, again, 28, Lars Nootbaar, 27, Pallante, 26. If you'd extend one of those three guys, you only get to pick one, though. You can give them an extension of, 2 years, whatever. Which one would you extend? Who would you like to keep around? But you only get one. You only get one. So hit me up below. Give me your thoughts. Also put it up as a poll question on our Twitter X page as well. So go check that out and vote as well. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, please give us a follow on Twitter X at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Like, subscribe on YouTube. Help our channel and love for the Cardinals grow. Make sure you're hitting the like button, because the like button helps the whole YouTube thing work out. And it gets us out there so more fans of the Cardinals, probably frustrated fans just like us, can find the channel and find the podcast. And that way we all live in harmony together. And we'll try to make it through this 2025 season as a family. So you guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason. I appreciate your support. And we will see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.